This is All Figured Out. I'm Andrea Barr. I'm a career coach for parents, a mom of two, and I absolutely believe that you can continue to grow personally and professionally while protecting family time. We're about to figure out this work, life, and parenting stuff out together. Beth Wanner, thank you for coming back on the All Figured Out podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's so good to meet you in person.
I know this is bizarre because it feels like, one, it does not feel like this is the first time we've met in person.
No.
Yeah.
You're actually exactly, I always get people's heights wrong, and you were exactly the height that I thought you were going to be.
You're the first person that says that. Everybody thinks I should be taller, and then they're very underwhelmed when they meet me in person. But I take it as a compliment of oh, I've got tall girl energy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
I thought you were going to be even shorter.
Oh, good.
I was she's this
know.
petite, I just feel like you're just a petite little spitfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I'll take that description.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's wonderful to have you here. Had you on the podcast just over a year. No, just under a year ago, where we unpacked your fucking wild ride. That is how you founded Mother Cover out of a situation that it was absolutely bonkers. For anyone who hasn't listened to that episode, you have to go back and listen. It is one of our top performing episodes. Not that the stats matter, but it just shows you that people are like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. This can happen? This is a thing? Employees aren't protected under all these employee rights and standards and whatever. And people were riveted by your story. I've had people reach out saying, this has happened to me. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing Beth's story. I know that they've gotten in touch with you from it and vice versa. Just wild. What has the experience since the episode went live and you really shared in a very public, very big way your entire story, not just snippets on LinkedIn? What was that experience like for you listening back?
Yeah, it was, I almost say out of body, not to be too dramatic, but you had sent over the recording for me to listen to in advance, and I listened to it with my husband, and we held hands, and it was white knuckle listening to this story because it really was the first time outside speaking to a lawyer about really the end-to-end. Well, not end-to-end because, spoiler alert, it's not done. But really going back through trauma of what this was like and really listening to this and thinking this doesn't feel like I'm talking about our lives. And my husband feeling the same about that as well, too, because just everything that has happened has been one thing after another and not really having time to sit with any of that because you have to deal with the next thing that's coming. So whether it was our journey through infertility and going through IVF, anybody who knows and has gone through that knows you are living month to month and you can be devastated one week and then you have to decide right away that you're going forward again and you're right back into okay, my mind and body needs to be hopeful and going through the next thing. So you really don't have time to mourn. And then the same was true for losing my job, not once, but twice. But it's okay, I need to keep going forward, getting information about my pregnancy, not having risks to it, having to be okay, what do I need to do to protect myself and my daughter? And all those things. So it really was the first time that we got to reflect on really everything that we've been through. And I would say that it was hard to listen to, but at the same time, I'm I'm so fucking proud of myself. Sorry, mother, for swearing. But that's really how I felt. I was I can't believe this is the resiliency that we've been through. And then again, cut to where we're at now with starting Mother Cover and feeling such a sense of purpose that's come out of this. Not to say that any of that I would wish on anybody else and that it wasn't and isn't. Still really hard to think about and navigate through, but I never would have gotten to this place where I'm now able to help others and tell the story. And like you said, others who come forward to say this happened to me, but we haven't been sharing it or we don't feel like we know these stories. That's one of the biggest motivations of the fight that I'm in is that these stories matter and we need to be talking about them.
Oh, I have full body. Every time you and I talk, on air or in the many times in between when we've had these updates, like I'm just filled with like full body chills of an admiration for you. You've just taken something so incredibly hard that you could have said, why me? Like, and really felt like, and I bet humanly, as a human, like, of course, I'm sure you had those moments, but like you took it and you're like, okay, screw you. Like, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this for my family, first and foremost? And what am I going to do about this for all the other women who are silenced because, like we talked about on that first episode, they're signing the dotted line and they're signing away their voice because they have to move forward for financial reasons. They can't afford a lawyer. They don't want to fight for 6 years. And you're like, no, like it would be easier.
Yeah.
To sign a piece of paper.
I do not fault anybody who does because this is hard. And there's been lots of times over the last couple of years now too where I was just like, I want to give up. And if I feel that way, everybody feels that way. It's just incredibly difficult.
And what about the I know we touched on this in our first episode, but like the marginalized populations, like I know that there's legal services and there are some supports, but like from a time perspective, someone working, say, 1, 2, 3 jobs who has kids who are like, how the hell are other people doing it in marginalized populations?
Yeah, especially at the time, like you are saying no to usually some sort of severance offer when someone's like, I need that money. Yeah. At this time to have a giant question mark of, will you ever see it? Or do you, you don't have to, in Canada, you don't have to have a lawyer to go through a human rights complaint. I do, and I could not imagine not, because it's still such a difficult system to navigate. And their side absolutely has a lawyer. So.
And I'm like thinking of like imagine like just ChatGPTing your way through it. Yeah. Like by yourself without a lawyer.
Aaron Brockoviching my way through this where I was just like, I can do it. And like, it's part of me feels like I could. I have a great lawyer. So thanks for that as well too. But I can't imagine not having that support, but there's obviously a cost that comes with that. And then it is the time and the emotional and stress that comes with that. I can understand 1,000% why somebody would say it is easier to accept this and go on with my life, or if, for those who don't start companies out of it as well too, like you need to get that next job. Like you can't, you just need to focus on that. So,
yeah. What was it like for other people listening to the episode? People, loved ones, say your mom, say some friends. What kind of feedback did you hear from them having heard in a really focused way the entire story for an hour end to end? What did you hear?
A lot of people, like I said, either that had been through something similar and felt like they were alone. That was probably the most impactful that I would hear back from others who just wanted somebody to talk to and couldn't do it in a public space, from family and friends, people who maybe thought like they knew some of what was going on or kind of knew the gist of what I experienced, really got to hear kind of the emotion behind it. And I would say that's still only the tip of the iceberg of like the emotion that's
legally you're allowed to share.
That I'm allowed to share, or it's a lot of weight to carry that, and there's a lot of details in between all the details and all those things. So
oh my goodness. Okay, and what has life looked like for the past year?
It's continued to be wild in terms of, one, I still do have an ongoing human rights complaint, so still navigating that, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel really to that. It'll probably be years more.
No, years?
Years to get to.
When are we all going to Ottawa to sit in the stands of the courthouse? Like Supreme Court stuff only happens in Ottawa, right?
I don't know.
Can I come?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, there's I think going to be a life after this of advocacy of like our system is so broken. It is not there to protect the employee, the individual. Just at every turn, it is a lengthy process. It's a stressful process, and thankfully now talking to a therapist about it, of just like, it is hard every time that something comes up. I think I'm okay with it, but I actually can't let it go either, because I have to be so on. Every detail has to be correct. I have to remember it. And now we're talking about something that happened in July of 2023 and all the events leading up to that. So there was months ahead of that of when I first got this job. So having to remember all those details means you can't let it go and you can't move forward. There's a lot of pressure that obviously I put on myself as well, to be like, I need to be perfect, because if I slip up, that is what they're looking for. Even doing podcasts like this, 100% their side, their lawyer is listening to everything that I say. So I need to make sure, and it's easy when you're telling the truth and you remember all these things. You don't have to remember, did I say the right thing? But it's making sure that like I remember all the details as they happen and all those sort of things. So you can't let it go. So there's that part of it where you're just like, I will never feel settled until it's done. But I believe so strongly in that this is the right thing to do because of the people that I hear from, and know that this should never be something that people lose their voice to be able to talk about the things that happen to them, because they are so deeply impactful. I think we talked about this last time. It's not just about losing your job. It's your career that you cared about, but also just the injustice of what happens to a lot of women when we want to pursue both things of our career and our family, and what our society still really thinks about that.
What would you change if you could use, because I feel like you've probably gotten like a PhD in the legal side or the human rights side of employment, having gone through everything you've gone through now, you know so much. But if you were to dumb it down to a first grader for us, well, what is it that you would hope to change in the system to make it better for mothers predominantly who are wronged in the workplace?
I think, one, we need to follow Europe's lead in some of the advocacy that they're doing of you can't sign NDAs or confidentiality when it has to do with discrimination or anything of that nature. I think that needs to be step one.
Wow. Tell me more about that. So truly, like if you have a claim or like you're saying, okay, I've been discriminated against this employer, like this employer has discriminated against me, you're allowed to go on this podcast and talk about it?
It can never be part of your terms of a settlement to say that, like, you can't talk about what happened to you. There might be confidentiality still around, say, like the what you agreed to in your settlement, but not to say that like this didn't happen to me, that gets wiped from your story. And that's something that they've been advocating for a long time, and things that have slowly changed. A lot of that came out of the Me Too movement. There's different things happening in the U.S. too, particularly around sexual assault and those types of cases, sexual harassment in the workplace, but extending that also to discrimination in those areas as well. Okay,
so in those situations, it would be, we settle, for instance. I do sign the dotted line saying, okay, I concede. Not concede, I settle. I'm going to take this severance package. But I can still wait. But I'm not going to wipe it from the world saying, okay, as I sign this, I'm saying this didn't happen.
Yeah, that settlement is basically used as a carrot for you to not talk about that. But then it doesn't solve what's at the root of our cultures, corporate cultures, individuals who feel like it's almost like a pay to play. Like I pay to continue doing what I always do. Nothing is actually going to change.
Yes.
It's actually having these conversations out in the open, knowing that these things still happen. Why do they still happen? What's at the root of it? Why do we even feel that this is what we should be doing? As leaders who think that this is okay or is a one-off, somehow they can explain their own actions away. If you knew that there was a chance that this was going to be public and you had to defend your actions in public, how would that change how you go about how you operate?
So if you were to sign, okay, so say you did sign the severance package, which you did not. Say you signed that, you're not then allowed to go to do a human rights?
No. You sign away your ability to file a human rights complaint or any type of legal action.
That is... Okay, I know that, like, I knew that because, again, people close to me have gone through this as well, and we've talked about this, but, like, just hearing that again makes me so mad. Mm-hmm. So in Europe, you could sign and then be like, and I'm going to still take your ass to court. Or I'm still going to take your ass to the human rights. Like, in a dumbed-down way.
I don't want to, but...
Speak on behalf of Europe.
Speak on behalf of Europe, or get into realms where, like, I am not a lawyer.
Yes,
I know my experience through it. But I believe theirs would be more about, like, even part of a settlement. So it could be a severance offer up front that somebody does. It just can't have that, like, that you can't talk about it.
Right. Wiping the slate.
Yeah.
Jeez, Louise. So what is next for you in this case? Like what? So you said potentially years ahead. What is to come? I know you've had mediation, which we can't talk about the details of the mediation, even though, God, I want to just ask you, like, I want to ask you if it was like Suits. Was there this camera pointing at you? Like, I want to ask all those things, but I won't because we have to send this to your lawyer again. But what is next? I know there was an investigation that happened. So an investigator comes and they're checking out all the details like a year later or whatever. So now you're waiting on this investigator to write a report.
Yes. So the investigator is through the Human Rights Commission. You give them all of your kind of supporting materials for your case. They review that. Then they interview you. They ask the same of the other party. They get any materials that they have and they interview them as well. So we've gone through that where we've given everything that we have. We've done the interview sort of thing. And now we're waiting on them to be like, do they need anything else? Is there anybody else that they need to interview? And then that report, which to my understanding basically just goes to the higher ups at the commission to say, yes, this case has standing, or no, it doesn't and should move forward. So that's 2 years in. That's where we're at of just, does this have standing or not?
And so if they said this doesn't have standing, then you're done?
I would be. Yeah. So that's the risk that you take of, like, at mediation, you could settle and then you'd be done, or you can push to move forward. And that's the risk at any stage of that. They can say, like, there isn't enough merit here. I feel very strongly that that could not happen in this case, but never say never, I guess.
And when we say materials, is this another reason why we all always say and give advice that we have to get everything in writing?
Everything. Yes.
Okay, I have a really, based on, again, this is like two people who aren't lawyers talking about some like legal stuff, but from what you understand, say I'm an employee and I'm starting to get, let's just use bullying as an example, because that's something that whoever's listening like might have experienced, probably has experienced some form of bullying in the workplace. What does documentation of that look like? Is that documenting it to yourself? Sending yourself an email saying this happened today? And does that stand on its own legs? Because I know, I hate this part of the argument, like you could make it up, right? You could make something up and document it. But how does that stand?
Yeah, that.
Do you know what I mean?
That I don't know, like how well, like if you wrote it to yourself.
Yes.
Other than you're almost creating a diary for yourself, because what's going to be important is timelines, when conversations happen. What, like, there is the he said, she said part of it. So you're going to want to really remember that from your perspective. So the more that you feel confident in that, because the part about this that is, I feel like, really stressful and traumatizing is I know that their job is to discredit me. Their job is to paint me as not a competent professional. And for somebody who cares a lot about their professional reputation, it is very hard to hear, even when you know what's wrong, even when you know what they're putting forward. So I was like, I need to control my stress levels when I hear what they say, even though I was like, I know that that's wrong and here's why. But knowing that I have the here's why is helpful, where it's not just he said, she said, but not to compare, but draw, I guess, the analogy between what we see a lot in national coverage of sexual assault cases and how traumatizing that is to victims. Is they get questioned about their credibility. Are they a believable witness? Did they ask for it in some way? Did they drink too much? All of those sort of
Are they
things.
provocative in nature?
Yeah.
Quote
So you're
unquote
just like,
provocative. You know,
why would anybody put themselves up for that? So there is a flavor of that I know I'm putting myself up for, where they're going to try to be like, she is not credible, or XYZ, or look at this, and I have to brace myself for that. So wanting to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. And like I said, that puts the making sure that I know my story and I can confidently speak to it.
So documenting. So maybe documenting it on your own side in a Google Doc and just keeping track of the timelines and the conversations. Of course, emails, text messages, whatever. And then is it also things like, okay, I went to HR on this day and I reported this. I said, okay, there's been some bullying happening, and boom, that was told. You know, that was okay. And you're going forward that way.
Yeah. Think of the reverse, because this is what employers do rightfully on their side. Like if they were wanting to deal with performance issues, is they're going to document performance reviews and those sort of things. So think of like the flip side of you wanting to document almost the performance of your manager or whoever you're dealing with in that type of situation.
Yeah. This makes me...
I feel like stressed.
Yes. It does. Okay. And I know you have to be careful about what you share around this, but have you had those moments? Maybe this could just be yes or no, but have you had those moments so far where you've gotten wind, or say in a mediation or in a conversation where you're starting to see a bit about what their argument is? Have you started to already hear bits and pieces of how they're trying to discredit you?
Yes, you get a little bit of it. When I first filed my case, I basically had to have like a one-page of this is my story. They get to provide their version back to that. So you start to see a little bit of what they're going to argue back. And we knew this, so I was terminated before the end of my probation. So them being able to say like, well, it was within probation, but also we believe it was performance related and on this sort of basis. So you know that that's going to happen, but anything else that they bring up. So you just kind of have to be prepared for it.
Gosh. I am continuing to cheer you on until that final day when there's that party that happens. Like I'm putting it out there. Join me in this. Yeah. Join me in this vision. Like when you win and there's that party, whatever winning looks like for you. Who knows how far it gets, where it gets. But like I am so here for you, and I can't wait to pull clips from our episodes and the many more to come too, that are documenting this. I feel like we're like doing like a documentary series, audio documentary. To like, I don't know, how can we add to this conversation in a really productive way? And you are doing that. And like, I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your story so that we can be documenting this, so that we can eventually be pulling some of these clips and be like, look at this journey. Like this wasn't okay. Yeah. How have you stayed in the fight? So I know that there have been moments where there's been, you know, the questions, I think you said it on the last episode where people were like, so are you sure you want to do this? Yeah. It could be up to 6 years. Yeah. And like the not fear-mongering, reality setting. Yeah. But like at every turn, it feels like, these are my words, not yours. It feels like at every turn, it's made to try to push you out of the game of continuing on with this case. Yeah, almost everybody that you talk to on your side or not is like, wouldn't it just be easier to end it? Don't you want to move on? Of course I do, but like it is, like I said, that bigger motivation of one, like I don't think I will mentally be okay to not see this through. Just because you sign an offer agreement or anything to make it go, it does not actually make it go away. So like that being said, if like this is a negative thing, don't you just want to move on? That's easier said than done for anybody else on kind of the other side of it. Of course you want to move on and continue doing what you're doing. But for me, this impacted my life in a very profound way that I, like I said, I'm going through therapy now just to be able to unravel and deal with that experience. But on the other side of it, I think what keeps me going more so now, like when I feel tired of my own case and being like, I'm so
energized by what's going on with Mother Cover and the positivity on that side. And then when something comes up, whether it's an email from a lawyer or this next step or sort of thing, I was like, oh, right, I'm dragged back into that space, or even seeing this person's face pop up on LinkedIn, or when I have to join mediation and see them, knowing that I will have to do that if this gets to a case. Really recognizing how that feels and not really knowing how to navigate. I guess that's where you think like this really was trauma, where like that feels too almost hyperbolic to say, or when you think of like what trauma means in other sort of contexts, where I was like, well, this I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say in that way of just like,
it's traumatic.
Minimizing your own thing, because you're like, there's war and what trauma actually means, but to be like that visceral feeling that I feel like when I have to go back through my timeline and have to remember everything again, I was like, no, this was fucking awful.
Yes.
And it still feels that way. And I need a resolution to that. And I'm glad that I have Mother Cover to funnel positive energy from this experience, but then hearing from other women who are still going through this or have been silenced in that way, that's the energy that keeps me going now. Whereas like, it's not just about me, because it can feel selfish for like, I'm taking my family through this still. Like we could move on. There could have been a settlement which would be money in a bank account right now. And selfishly being like, no, I need to retain my voice on this. And it's not, again, just for myself, though that's a big part of it, but for all of those who can't. This matters.
What does success look like at the end of this? If you're 80 years old and you're looking back on this period of this hellish period of time for you, and you look to the end of the case and beyond, and even like 20 years in the future when things in this system have shifted, what does the success of it all look like for you?
I'd say at the beginning, I would have thought it looked like this person or others that knew this was happening and maybe didn't step in or tried to. I hope they tried to, reaching out to say, I learned something from this, or I'm a more evolved, or like, I'm really sorry that this happened. It used to be that. I don't think I'm ever going to get that. I'm not going to hold out for that. So it's more about the impact that I hope to drive through Mother Cover. Of I'm not going to, what we're building and doing with Mother Cover, I don't think I'm going to be able to solve the extreme cases. If somebody wants to discriminate against a caregiver, against a parent, against a woman, that's something deeply flawed within that person that I can't solve. But those who are in the middle, those who want to do the right thing, but maybe just don't know how, or are really thinking, like I said, about the logistical challenge that come with anybody taking leave from work. They're thinking about like, how do I balance my business? How do I keep things going forward? To be able to reach those ones and give them a system and a process so that they can do what they want to, the right thing that they want to do in supporting their employee, but also not have to sacrifice their goals in company and the things that they're wanting to do, that we will reduce or eliminate discrimination in those cases where they can be that environment that they want to be. So that's what success would look like out of this, is knowing that we've protected people's jobs because we've gotten rid of that feeling that me supporting my employee is going to harm my business.
That is so beautiful. I really love that. And what I love about that is that you're taking a situation and you've created a solution. And we're gonna get right into Mother Cover because I'm your biggest fan. But what you've done is you've created a solution to a problem at the grassroots level of saying, okay, employers are feeling challenged because they have people going on leave. Whether or not they, should be allowed to feel a challenge. It is a challenge. It's a logistical challenge.
And if we don't acknowledge that, we can't solve it. So I advocate constantly that policy alone won't do it.
Exactly.
A lot of our clients are American and are mind blown when I say that I'm Canadian and was fired at 8 months pregnant, because they're like, well, but you've got the laws and all of that in place. Laws are great. We need them. We absolutely do. And the U.S. needs longer protected leave, longer paid leave. Absolutely. But that does not change corporate culture.
No.
And until we're able to make leave feel safe, having those policies in place don't equate to practice.
Yes.
So what Mother Cover is trying to do is play a small role in how we can start implementing practice so it feels safe to go forward with these policies.
It's safe for everybody.
Yes.
It feels safer for the organization, for the manager, feels safer for the CEO to be like, whew, we've got a way that we handle leaves.
Yeah.
We have a way of doing things.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful way of doing it.
And it's because not charity we've got of like, we get to just let somebody take time off, which, God, it's not time off.
Oh my God, yeah.
But to say like, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart, and which means I'm sacrificing my business. Like, no, you don't have to do that. We just have to look at workforce planning differently. It was what we're doing now is designed in the 1960s and 70s when women weren't a huge parts of the workforce, or that we always had one caregiver at home. Mm-hmm. That's just not the reality. One, for what a lot of women want. We care about our careers and we want to be able to do that, but we also care about our families. And then the reality of we live in an economy that requires dual incomes.
That old chestnut.
Yeah. So like there's multiple sides to this, that if this is the society that we want, and we want to be able to support the choice of either parent, either both of them being in the workforce or one of them not, like we just need the infrastructure around it that policy alone is not enough for.
Yeah. I mean, maybe another time we go into like how daycares are 9 to 5 and workplaces now return to work policies, return to office policies are now also bum and seat 9 to 5. Like none of it actually makes sense.
No.
It doesn't like
No, we're set up to fail from the beginning of it. So
you're sneaking around. I'm obsessed with that. Like just like that sneaky. It's like, why is anybody sneaking? Why is anybody sneaking? Why is a dad sneaking out? Why is a mom sneaking out? Why are we?
And then we got to apologize for it. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. I'll be online later. I'll stay online till midnight to make up for the half an hour that I went to pick up my child.
Yeah. Something you said, you talked about workforce planning. I think that's such an interesting take on this. Having worked in corporate, the retail fashion industry, we were on a very cyclical workforce planning cycle. So holidays come, Black Friday comes, back to school comes, and we're like, boom, staff up. And then staff down. Or not staff down, but people, attrition happens, whatever. But we staff up in a really big way, where we would staff up in a really big way over the holidays. We needed like all hands on deck. We would hire hundreds of additional people because we just knew that was part of the cycle. Then there's the economy. Okay, we're having, a tricky year. What does that mean for our workforce planning? And no one bats an eye at that.
Yeah.
These cycles and these things that are just a reality of doing business. Why is it that the realities of women having children is like mind-blowing?
Yeah, that it's nothing new, but we treat it like a scramble every time it happens.
Yes.
And I often talk about, when I'm talking to others about the oh shit moment. So like when somebody comes and says, I'm pregnant, and hopefully at a supportive company, they say congratulations, but the door shuts and everybody goes, oh shit, like how do we handle this? And that happens every time. And again, whether they're like, we do have good intentions, we want to support this employee, but as soon as you get the congratulations out your mouth, your mind is immediately going to like, how are we going to staff this? How are we going to handle their projects? What does this mean? Oh, does this mean extra work on me? Now I got to figure this out. And instead of just being able to purely be happy for your employee, you have those wheels start turning in your mind. And then why I say it's about workforce planning is I don't want this to just be, yes, it's inspired by women and my story, but we all have important things that matter in our lives. So whether it's more dads wanting to take parental leave, or it's caregivers that we have aging parents that we're caring for, it's mental health leave, it's medical leave. We all have these things in our lives, and we should plan for those that There'll be times and seasons where you come in and out of work, but it shouldn't mean that you have to choose between, do I give up my career because I've had this happen in a season of my life? But how do we build the infrastructure so companies know that, like, this is how I can slot somebody in for that, and it can be really seamless. And then my valuable employee can come back and probably be more engaged than they were before because you recognize them as a human being.
Yeah. It should just be say no more.
Yeah.
Either congratulations or I'm sorry for the circumstances of your leave, whatever kind of leave it is, we've got you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know it's easier said than done, but I just have such a belief that if it's an oh shit moment every time, I'm sorry, you're not running a good business. Yeah. Like, that's actually not good business. If you can't afford to have any of your workforce step out for a week, a day, a year, and you have no other plans because everything was riding on that one person, you don't have proper standard operating procedures going on. Like, you don't
think
have
about, like, succession planning all the time. Anyway, we think about that for our senior leadership positions, but thinking of that more in a fluid way instead of like, well, this is just when somebody retires. But like I said,
you're playing with Jenga. Like, that's not good business.
Yeah. And more of our companies, because unfortunately there's been so much downsizing and layoffs, is that teams are leaner than they've ever been. So there really just isn't that flux that maybe used to exist, which I'd say for a lot of companies didn't really exist then either. But that's true for, again, a lot of U.S. companies don't backfill at all when they have somebody stepping into a leave. They more so disperse that amongst the existing team, but that's a really negative impact for them too. If everybody's at 115% already, now I have to take on the responsibilities of somebody else's job. The person going on leave feels that burden of like, I know what I'm asking my team members to step in for me. So they're trying to do Herculean efforts to make sure that, like, they don't feel any burden while they're away. So just, it's not a good experience for anybody. Everybody feels that, oh shit, kind of, instead of being like, this is amazing.
What is your take, or what would be your response to, say, some, corporate, I was going to say corporate bro. That's not fair. Not all bros are, corporate bros are mean. But let's just say somebody who says, okay, but Beth, I work for this big corporation. I am doubling down on DE&I. I'm doubling down on leave top-ups. We're paying our employees pretty well their full salary for 6 months. We can't afford to then bring in someone like a mother cover because now we're actually paying more in this. What do you say to that person who's like fighting against you with this idea?
Yeah. One, there's lots of different formulas, and you can reach out to me for this because I'm actually putting together a little bit of a playbook around this, but of how to budget for leaves. But a really quick high-level version of it is take 1% of your salary and put that aside into a leave coverage. That's really all you need. So it's a small fraction of your overall compensation budget, but has a huge impact when you start then looking at attrition from leaves. And there's a stat out there, Matern in Canada, Parentally in the US, that talks about 1/3 of women leave their jobs within 18 months of returning from a parental leave. And a lot of that is because they did not feel supported during their leave. So look at the cost of that, especially if you say you're investing in your DEI initiatives. That's where you're losing your most talented women, and where like that glass ceiling really comes into play, where you're like, well, I can't return back to this leadership position because I wasn't supported, so I'm going to go off to another company and start fresh again. Look at the turnover of the team as well, too, because that's something where you think like, well, I'm just doing this for maybe only 5% of my workforce is actually going to go on parental leave, but it impacts a lot more within your company. We've had scenarios where people have talked about clients churning because they didn't have the proper support when they were an account manager, that their accounts weren't looked after when they left. So there's a real financial impact to the company, whether it's missed goals, lost productivity, turnover. You can put together the business case for that 1% of your salary line items.
Cool. Yeah. Well, reach out to Beth on this playbook. That sounds so interesting. Yeah. That's such a good idea. And this is also coming from somebody who is a former or is an executive. You're a business owner now, former executive. So you are very intimate with understanding costs and expenses and overhead. I mean, all the things.
All those things.
All the money.
Yeah.
All the money.
Yeah.
Now, for those who have gotten this far in the episode who actually haven't listened to the first one, can you, as you would describe it today, introduce us to Mother Cover?
Sure. So Mother Cover is an agency that specializes in interim and fractional support for parental leaves, really any type of temporary leave, but again, founded around the idea for parental leave. And it is all we do. So we don't do other types of fractional or consulting engagements. So it's really wrapped around what it's like to step in for somebody versus taking on a vacant role or a project, say. So
you're not a recruiter.
Not a recruiter. The other thing I'll just call out is like we're not like a staffing agency or recruitment firm where we place somebody and then we're gone. We're involved the entire way. We've built up a roster of over 100 what we call leave partners, and they are professionals with a minimum of 10 plus years of experience across whether it's HR, finance, operations, marketing, sales, and they are experts also in being able to step in on short-term contracts. So they can get the lay of the land, quickly hit the ground running. So again, if we're talking about a U.S. leave and it's a 3-month leave, you don't have a month to spend ramping somebody up. So when I talk about this is all that we do, we've built processes around what does a good transition period look like? How do you onboard a leave partner? What does that leave itself actually look like? How are we documenting things and creating breadcrumbs for that parent that's going to come back so they get the context of what they missed out on? And then what does that re-onboarding period look like, which is a huge part that's often overlooked. We all think about like, how do we document everything and get that person ready to leave and hand it over to somebody, whether it's external or internal that's taking over the responsibilities. And we really drop the ball on that person returning and reintegrating essentially back into their team. So that's what we all think about, what our leave partners think about, and being able to step in seamlessly to companies so that they don't have to have that oh shit moment. They're like, great, you're going on leave. We have somebody that can step in, really care for the person who's going on leave because it's their strategy and it's their professional reputation that they're carrying forward. So that gives the peace of mind to the parent going on leave. But again, it doesn't feel like charity from the company's side because they still get a senior operator that's able to take things forward. It's not like a pause. It's like as if you were still in seat. Your projects, your strategies, everything is still moving forward. And it's like a baton being handed back to you when you are ready to return.
Oh, and how many of us have seen that moment of someone goes on leave and they're like, you know what? We can't afford to replace this person for 12 months. We can't find that person at this mid to senior level. Let's bring in an intern or a coordinator. And you're like, that actually does nothing for anybody. Okay, sure. Maybe it alleviates some of the work to like your managers who can take on. It's just, that's messy. And that's not smart.
No. And one of the things that, so we talk about fractional leave. So for anybody who's not familiar with the fractional term, is essentially you're getting a fraction of somebody's time. And we do leaves up to full time, but it is more common for us to do fractional. And that's for a few reasons. The type of individuals who are on our leave roster are portfolio career type folks. They are fractional. So they deal with multiple clients. And they do that because maybe they've gone through layoffs or different things in their career and they've stumbled into contract and fractional work, but now really enjoy it because maybe they are parents themselves and that's just the flexibility and control they're looking for. Or we have individuals who are 20, 25, 30 years into their career and they're like, I've just earned this flexibility and I'm able to do this kind of on my own. So they do that by nature, which is a good almost security of when you bring somebody into a contract role for a leave. And again, now putting more on the Canadian side of a 12 to 18 month leave, that's risky because that person is most often looking for a full-time job. So is it either a foot in the door in that company, which feels threatening to the parent going on leave? Is this person actually going to take my job? Or are they a flight risk because they're going to take a permanent job as it comes up? So if it's a 12 or 18-month leave, they might leave before it's done. So us recommending a fractional professional they're fractional by choice. They're not looking for a permanent job. And those who are on our leave roster have come because they feel a personal connection to what we're trying to do as well. So they understand the importance, the responsibility and the weight of stepping in for somebody again versus just taking on a vacancy or project work. And then the other is budget, as we were talking about. So I always recommend that you should overhire for that role. You want to go more senior than, say, if you were permanently hiring for that role, because it wasn't a role you were expecting to hire, train, and onboard for. Right. So having somebody more senior who knows how to step in can be ingrained in your team, but doesn't need a lot of extra hand-holding. That just goes so much further. But you maybe couldn't afford them full-time, but you can afford them 30 hours or 25 or 20 or whatever it happens to be. And that can have a really outsized impact on their team. But we've seen it a lot too, where you think that you need one thing, so you go more junior for that. And you're like, I've maybe saved some money or I was able to attract for that role. But then in our fast-moving environment, lots of things change, or you need somebody who's able to not just carry forward a strategy, but react if something changed, whether it's in the team, in the market, that sort of thing. So having somebody senior that can handle that, and you're not left kind of scrambling. I've seen time and time again be so valuable that we have somebody more senior in that role than what they thought maybe they needed.
Yeah, because the winds change and the person's like, okay, like just with experience and time and, you know, having seen more stuff because they are more senior, it won't rattle them as much.
No, yeah.
And also, you know what I've loved about, I have to call out, like one of the insights that you had for founding Mother Cover that has stuck with me and that I tell everybody about when I'm talking about Mother Cover, which is probably weekly, is the fact that the person going on leave, their strategy and their work there's a follow through to it, which I think is so cool and so unique. It is not something that's talked about enough, that when a person goes on a leave, whether medical, parental leave, what have you, it's like, great, everything, unless I like completely got that, you know, strategy plan done, dusted, and started, like it's actually like being put to work, it's probably just going to get rewritten. It's going to get thrown in the garbage. It's never going to see the light of day. And I just worked, you know, for the past 2 years, I'm pushing this thing forward. And now other agendas are coming in, taking over and steamrolling what I've done. But what I love about Mother Cover is that you're like, no, we hold sacred the work that the leave that the person was doing who's gone on leave. And we are putting a person in place who has there's no skin in the game. Like there's no ego attached to it. They're like, I'm going to go do the best possible work in my area of expertise possible. I'm going to take the strategy, unless there's something fundamentally wrong that they overlooked or whatever. And they're like, and I'm just going to see this through for them. And then that person's going to come back. And I can only imagine I'm sure there's conversations that happen in that transition back. And how cool would that be for that fractional person to be like, welcome back. Like, okay, here's what we were working on. And it's a senior leader who knows what they're talking about. And there's like, here's how I covered you in this past year, you know, or however long. Like, go get them. Yeah. How nice is that?
Yeah. And to not feel like, I've talked to so many women who just, you still have that underlying fear of, somebody's coming to carry forward my work. But like I said, are they going to outshine me? Are they going to change things? Am I going to get my role rescoped when I come back? But we have a leave partner manifesto. So when a leave partner takes on a contract for us, this is basically like, this is how you're expected to carry yourself. And one of those things, and you already said this yourself, ego has to be left at the door. This is a low ego, zero ego type of environment. And that's where it's been so rewarding to have everybody who's become a leave partner has found us because they really care about this type of work. So again, whether they are 20 or 30 years into their career, but taking on a senior individual contributor type role, they're like, I don't care if I was a CMO, I am doing this role because it's in service of this person, and that just feels so good all the way around. Like it's
a win-win-win. They're making money too. The fractional person is making a a great income from doing this, and they're helping the company, and the company's helping every single party wins.
Yes. Yeah. And the parent, that's way we talk about like keeping their name spoken in the rooms that they're not in. I remember feeling, even before I was pregnant, of trying to think like, how will I navigate any time away, and not necessarily being worried about because I was naive to the extremes of discrimination. I just thought, I was like, well, how am I going to be what felt like invisible for any amount of time within my career? But to think that like somebody's coming in to make sure that they're like, no, this is Beth's strategy. And we also talk about that we're not just seat fillers or bench warmers. We're bringing our level of expertise into it. So like, say I had gone on leave and somebody took over my position for me. If, like I said, something came up in the market or something changed or they had a good idea, we absolutely want them to bring their good ideas and that expertise that they're bringing to the table. But you do it in a way that's so respectful and honoring the person that's on leave. So maybe there was a flaw in my plan, but they wouldn't say, Beth's plan doesn't make sense. They might say, Beth had this great plan. It actually made me think of XYZ. Can we add that on top of it? So just the care in the way that you're doing that, because you know this is not your job. This is not your role. You are a caretaker of it for somebody else.
Let's pull that clip. Let's pull that clip out. What is one of the most surprising or some of the most surprising things, or just things that you hadn't expected to come to fruition in this past year? Congratulations, first of all, on 1 year of Mother Cover. Feels like you've been at it forever. Crazy. What has surprised you in what you've learned, who you've encountered, the conversations with the businesses, the clients, corporations, the leave partners? What comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind was I don't know why I didn't think of this, but I get a lot of baby photos from our clients. And I was like, I just like, what a bizarre, like coming from, again, never thinking that my career was ever going to leave tech, that I was ever going to be an entrepreneur and do anything, let alone be in some sort of realm where like, that's part of my job. It's like, I'll get an email with somebody's newborn photos, and like, just, the first time that happened, I was just like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this is my job now. And such, and it also underscored the gravity of the role that we're playing. We're coming in at a very personal time for somebody, and we may have almost guaranteed that we have not met this person in person, because almost all the work that we do is remote. But yeah, that you almost create that bond with them, that they're wanting to show you their baby photos even though you've never met them, and you're just like, this is amazing. So that is something I never imagined, and I used to not think of myself as such a softie, but oh man, that was the best part.
So cute. What do you see is next for Mother Cover? No, not so much. I want to get to that, but I want to actually ask about, like, for lack of a better word, trends. What are you seeing as being important to organizations as it pertains to parental leaves? Is it continuing to add to top-ups? Are there greater conversations? Like, what's the narrative out there since you're so embedded in this?
I think, and again, because most of our clients are U.S., it is leaves getting longer, which is great. Like, it's still painfully slow, but you're seeing, for those who don't know, it's most common in, I would say, knowledge worker and professional fields, 12 weeks. Now we're seeing 16 weeks, 20 weeks, which I know still feels very slow, very, very low compared to 12 to 18 months.
For that long.
Yeah.
Can I say it? I think it's my podcast.
You can say whatever you want. It's true.
Right?
Yes. It's...
okay, anyways. But getting longer. Good.
Getting longer. Good. And I think that's bringing this to more of the forefront of, like, we can't just get away with dispersing work amongst the existing team and not bringing that. We need to think about, again, workforce planning in a different way. And budgeting for that, like we budget for anything else, planning for that, like we plan for anything else. And then on the Canadian side, again, what we're talking about, like, yes, maybe we've got the policies more advanced, but our corporate culture is still not there. We still, especially with women in leadership positions, it's almost like a test of loyalty. Yes, you can take 12 to 18 months, but are you? Will you?
That makes me want to poke my eyes out and vomit at the same time.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have. I'm sure I wouldn't have. I would have been like, no, I'm coming back after X number of months, or I'll come back part-time or something. Like, I wanted to be able to show like, no, I'm this is still important to me. I haven't changed. I'm back. But yes. So I think that's still very much a thing. But I think that, again, the companies who are starting to recognize that there's more conversation still needed to be had around a good leave experience and what people are feeling internally, because we're having more of these conversations of, I still feel really stressed when somebody steps in for me, or I felt like my re-onboarding was really bumbled, or I didn't have the communication that I needed, or I didn't have conversations about flexibility when I returned. So just bringing more of those conversations to the forefront for companies who just didn't realize all the other layers of complexity beyond just, did I have protected leave and did I have paid leave? Where those conversations need to go now on both sides of the border, I feel like that's happening more.
Okay. I like this. Oh, there's so much to unpack. If we were to record, when we are to record again in a year, you're back here in Vancouver in person. What do you hope to share with me that has happened in the past year?
Oh, I would love to say that, I don't know, our Human Rights Commission heard this and was like, oh, we need to speed this up, and we get to end.
We get to Ottawa?
And we get to Ottawa. And I've retained my story, and we can show how there is a playbook for keeping our voices and doing the right things, and making that almost like a case study for other companies to be like, this is how you can really go sideways on these things. I don't know. That was a little bit of you can cut that part.
No, we're not cutting. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah,
let's send this. Can we send this clip? Can we send this YouTube video to the Human Rights Commissioner?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that a thing? I just said he. Ugh, bad.
Yeah.
Do they have an email address that you know?
So
can I look it up?
There's human rights commissions in each province. So we each have our own human rights commission, and then I believe there's a federal body as well too. But I think there's probably another whole segment I just want to do on maybe helping people navigate the human rights process and bringing more attention to what's not working in that process. One, they're very much underfunded. And I don't know if you look province by province, but I live in a conservative province. I believe that's related of why our Human Rights Commission is underfunded. So there isn't the staffing to make sure that like we can hear cases and move things forward in a timely manner. But that's, like I said, also at the company's benefit of they can keep kicking it down the road and there's no teeth for it. So really shining a light and education around what that does to victims of discrimination or any types of human rights complaints, what that really feels like. It doesn't feel like a human process, which is ironic for a human rights complaint. I think there should be mandated counseling within that as well. That has not been my experience so far at any point of being treated like a human going through this. It's very clinical, almost. Yeah, it's not great.
Not great.
But on the more positive, so yes, that would be, I'm not thinking that that's going to happen in a year. Like I said, I think that's several years down the road, but that would be a wonderful surprise if I could tell you that this came to a good resolution within a year. But more importantly, I think it's going to be the growth of Mother Cover, more case studies, more stories that we can show about companies doing it right. Because I'd rather tell those stories than this one.
Mic drop. Yeah. But of course, I have one more question. Well, I have two more questions. Okay. Number one, what is one of your favorite, just off the top of your head, what is one of your favorite stories that you have had or success stories that's happened over the past year?
I'd say my favorite is that one leave that I actually did myself ended up getting extended as that person was returning to help with their re-onboarding. And I just said, like, we became friends, and we talked a lot about when we would have our weekly one-on-ones. We were talking about marketing strategy, but then we were also just talking about motherhood. And I was just like, everybody deserves this. And I know that this is what you do. But almost being able to have like that coach for both things of talking about like, yes, this is how you figure out your pumping and breastfeeding schedule around your meetings and all those sort of things, because that's part of it. But then like also let's get into, like I said, the marketing strategy side of things. And then that is a company that we also did a case study with, and we actually just had them be a part of an interview where an HR publication interviewed all the leader of that team, the person who went on leave, and myself. But listening to them describe their experience, it was almost as if I could have written it for them. Of like, this is what I hope that somebody, both the company and the individual going on leave, experiences, and to have them say that in their own words without being scripted was a really full circle moment where I was just like, oh, this is real. This really did have the impact that I hoped it would have. And now I just hope that scales.
Wow. Congratulations. And how has motherhood been in the past year of growing a business and a toddler?
Yeah. So
I now have going with Ruby?
2-year-old toddler, and she is amazing and funny and challenging and bossy in all the best ways that I hope for a young woman to grow into. So I'm so honored to be her mom. And there's so many pinch me moments of again going through infertility that it's like, I can't believe you're here. I can't believe this is what life is like now. But she also just pooped everywhere before I got here. So like you get humbled real quick and easily, but that is motherhood.
You were still on time. You texted me saying running behind. There was a poop explosion.
Yeah.
And I thought, if that's not just the perfect epitome of working motherhood, going to some fancy studio to be on a podcast.
It's like, I'm doing this podcast on this big deal day. And then she's like, I'm gonna give you a little curveball here.
This is gonna go everywhere. And we're not in our home. We're in someone else's home.
Yeah. 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 Shout out to our family that we just left them with a poo explosion and ran out the door.
Beth, what is something that you would say you're still trying to figure out right now?
Right now, well, on the topic of my daughter, these last couple days while I've been in Vancouver, I'm working as well too, and she's at home with our family. Normally she's at daycare, so I don't think now that she's getting older, she's more aware. So we would normally take her to daycare and then I start my work day. Now because we've been here, I say I'm going to work and she's staying home and I am kind of sneaking away to an office to do some work. And the last 2 days she was like, Mommy's working? And it actually made me feel really sad. And I was like, oh, why do I feel that way and then I make some sort of joke of like, well, somebody's got to pay for your diapers. And now I was thinking about this even on the drive over. I was like, I can't make that joke. I need her to see that like I'm doing something that's really important to me, that she's my number one, but I'm also have things that I'm really passionate about. I'm really proud of the work that I do. So I shouldn't joke of like, I'm doing this because we have to. I'm doing this because I really want to and I'm really proud of it. And I hope that you're really proud of me.
It's so beautiful. There's so much we could say on that.
Yeah.
But I want to leave it there because that's beautiful. Thank you for once again sharing your story, sharing your updates. I love this, like, where are they now episode a year later. Where is Beth? What's happening? What's going on in her case? Yeah.
Well, hopefully it won't feel less like a crime scene drama that we're following. But
a bit of a legal drama, though.
Yes. Yeah.
A little bit of a legal
crime scene. Yeah.
The axe on the ground. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.